How come Donald Trump isn't invited into Georgia to help Herschel Walker?
Because they don't want him back. Shoot.
And let me ask you about the former president. The Republicans here are saying, you know what? Sit this one out. Why do you think that is? And do you think that's going to hurt or help Herschel Walker?
I don't know how it's going to affect Herschel, but I mean, everybody's against Trump. Even there's a lot of rhinos are against him, and so
Donald Trump has been kind of detrimental for elections in Georgia. Georgia has its own mind. Georgia does not get influenced by President Trump.
How do you feel about Donald Trump kind of being excluded from this process?
Well, I think that this is a local issue. He doesn't need to be a part of it.
And are you being nice?
Yes.
Those were fascinating. Great work there by Michael Schor. There was at least one of those that kind of seemed defensive of Trump, like everybody's trying to stop him and cut him down. But the rest of them, they seem kind of over Donald Trump, even if there might be missing a little bit of context. When they say like, we don't need them, Georgia will decide for itself. Well, like, where do you think you got Herschel Walker from? Like, maybe you're independent now, but you guys chose the one that Trump wanted in the beginning. So anyway, very fascinating responses. What do you think?
Yeah, you have to go watch the entirety of Michael's interviews at youtube.com/theyoungturks. They're amazing. There's a lot of people who are also like calling Herschel Walker like a real Christian and not Raphael Warnock. They're like, well, he must preach at a fake church. It's the one that Martin Luther King preached at. That's real. But I love that you have in this one, you have an example of every potential thought process approaching it. You got the people who are accusing others of rhinos, even though the people that don't want Trump are the actual Republicans. Like that's what the party traditionally has been about. Character, being the Britishest of all of them in terms of like not showing emotion and just sanctimony. But then the other guy who you can see that first interview, he was trying to come up with things he'd heard before that would apply in this situation that he could give back to Michael because that's what they're good at giving him. There is no answer that they've provided for it. That's why it's such an awkward interview because people don't know what to think about it because everybody involved is so ashamed they aren't telling you even what they want you to think about it, let alone what they really think about it.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated to see. Like we've been in the Trump is the entire Republican Party effectively era for so long now that it's like it's hard to remember that like you and I in theory have been around before that just as long. I have no memory of that time basically. Like
I do.
It didn't exist of the Paul Ryan era or whatever.
It was just Paul Ryan was the ultimate version of that.
Yeah. Well, and now we might be on the cusp of moving into a new era. And it's fascinating to watch people who are far more specifically affected by it. Those who will have to decide what their party is going to be trying to figure that out. Anyway, as always, great work by Michael Schor. He does a great job there because he keeps it together. He's one of the most reasonable people ever. And so that makes him a great person. And basically, we've always chosen people like that to do these. Emma's a great example of that. Very level-headed, doesn't like, I would freak out. I'd ruin it in 10 seconds, but Michael Schor does a great job.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.